We're now at the part where you can ask questions. And you know the panel, Dawn from Crowdfunder and Dirk from Seedbed, and on my right hand side, Gareth Hart. He's got many hats, and one of the hats being he's director of his own social enterprise, and second hat is that he's an entrepreneur in residence at the Futures Entrepreneurship Center, and various other hats as well. So we will try to provide the difficult questions and distribute that evenly among everybody else. Just for practical purposes as well, I will just repeat your question so that it is recorded as well, so everybody else can hear that wherever they are. Are there any questions at this stage that you want to ask from the audience side? If not, yes, there we are.
I'd like to know how crowdfunding works for non-profit organisations where there is unlikely to be any immediate commercial profit.
Right, so the question is, how can crowdfunding work for non-profit organisations where financial profits will not always be possible from the start?
Would be impossible. Or
impossible at all. Dawn?
Well, it makes no difference whatsoever. For Crowdfunder. Crowdfunder is a rewards-based platform, and so people who are backing your idea with pledges of cash are not necessarily, they're not expecting you to make profit, because they are not expecting you to give them any equity or any share of their profits. All they're expecting you to do is give them some form of reward.
There would be no reward within the kind of organisation I'm thinking of, for those people who pledge money.
So the best thing to do is to be creative about your rewards. So for example, if somebody pledges £5, you could thank them with a tweet from your Twitter account. If they pledge £10, you could perhaps write their name on the wall of your building. These rewards don't have to have a monetary value. They're simply symbolic of you know, what this person has backed you. So we encourage people to be really creative. Some organisations we know have created little videos where they name the people who've backed them with pledges of cash and so on. It doesn't need to be something of immediate monetary value if that's not possible for your particular business.
I can imagine people wishing to be anonymous if they gave to the kind of project that I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think what Dawn is saying, there are various ways actually to acknowledge support, be that in a direct manner or indirect manner, and that there are different means than just the financial side. And provided the idea is of a certain nature, it will be built around that. Any other questions?
Yes, this is for Dirk. I was just wondering, where you have a business which is venturing on a social enterprise sort of body where it's actually medical-based innovation as well. So you've got various elements to it where you've got that feeling that you want to contribute a lot on the social side because the humanistic side to it, and obviously you do need to make a profit to keep it going because of the actual device itself, and the need for it, you know, and the fact that you want to keep it sustainable. How would you be able to help, for example, if one was to actually be able to put some money in themselves, and of course the money perhaps from Crowdfunder, the second tranche of actually manufacturing is probably the hardest, and I've come up against this problem, not myself, but having come across with some friends before this problem, and it really slows them down, and sometimes they go out of business because they haven't been able to access it quickly enough, and they needed it.
Right, so the question is, how can you assist social enterprises in the manufacturing side and making sure that the cash flow match the process of manufacturing? Dirk?
Yes, and I think you put a particular medical context around that, so medical innovation, health innovation. I mean, I would say with the Accelerator program, our support is very much focused, first of all, to make sure that your business model, the model for your particular business, is as kind of solid as it can be, so that really you have confidence in it, as well as potential backers and customers, you know, of your business will have confidence in it. Secondly, we spend a lot of time focusing on who your customers are and how your product sits within a market. And that market can be very unique to your particular innovation and your particular product. So you know, that will then determine who your customers are, who the potential financiers are of your business. And we can support you in getting those kind of critical issues as clear as possible. The more clarity you can bring to your proposition, and the clearer you are about the needs of the customers, as you heard in the marketing presentation, the easier it will be for you to put your service out into the marketplace. And the third thing we can do is we've got strong networks through the incubator itself or the Accelerator program, as well as through our partner organizations, to put you in touch with organizations that will support innovation and particularly take risks around product development.
I think one of the points mentioned is the complexity that we perceive, and knowledge is creating innovation, and innovation is creating innovation. So, Gareth, we as social entrepreneurs are standing in the midst of this perfectly knowledge storm. So, where should we start?
Well, to add to the point, I think, Dirk's point about that question particularly, I think some of that is really kind of back to basic business planning. It's cash flow forecasting, it's kind of looking at your investors, looking at the gap, looking at the working capital, looking at when your product will reach market, what your sales will be in the future, what's the gap going to be. And it's modelling all that in a business, and in some respects that's where social enterprises are no different to a mainstream private business. You know, if you were a big chemical, a pharmaceutical company, you plan for 10 years of investment and research before your product, 15 years, maybe even longer before your product starts making a profit. So I think that's kind of some really good, robust business planning, and schemes like Seedbed and others, School for Social Entrepreneurs, really help with that. In terms of where we stand in the centre of the knowledge storm, I think what Victoria says is really profound, and it's something that I've been trying to articulate as one of my roles around developing, being chair of the Plymouth Social Enterprise Network, is that Plymouth is the first social enterprise city in the country, the world, and you know, we are leading the way around some of this stuff. Future entrepreneurship centres right out there in front in terms of the ecosystem for social entrepreneurs. And there's so much information coming across our radar, you know, through Twitter, through Facebook, through papers, through research, although there's still, to me, a gap in academic research in social enterprise. I think we've just got to get out there and just show we can deliver really good businesses that can grow, that can scale. It could be, you know, take away the technicalities. Let's just deliver really good businesses that achieve really good social impact and make the world a better place. Business with a good cause. That's what Victoria said. I think that's quite a profound change. And that, to me, is about public awareness. It's about getting people out there in all sectors of society to understand what social enterprise is. If they understand that more people will come to it, and then it becomes a much clearer vision. There's complications around social investment and equity and this, that and the other, I think, can fall by the wayside.
I have a question about actually this cooperation between university and, for instance, Crowdfunder. So say there is some research from a university that got like social applications. I think actually while this driving campaign is going on. How does this work between university actually doing some research projects and which then are applied in community, for instance, in interventions in schools and like that?
Okay, so it's all about cooperation, crowdfunding and university. So first you, and then I will add to that.
Well, we're very keen to, the relationship between Crowdfunder and Plymouth University is an evolving relationship, and as it goes forward it gets deeper and more valuable and more meaningful over time. And we're very open to doing research, collaborative research with the university in different ways to prove the value of things like crowdfunding and to demonstrate the actual social impacts it can have, and also the economic impacts and so on. So So we're very open to that, and we are exploring at the moment different research projects that we could perhaps do with the university. Because I think, I mean, to pick up slightly on the previous point, I think what's very interesting at the moment is there's a genuine alternative finance market is developing, and it's quite cutting edge stuff. And Crowdfunder is also backed by Nesta, who backed us because they believe that crowdfunding is doing something genuinely different and is able to help businesses in a different way, and is actually part of an emerging economic ecosystem of alternative finance. So we have crowdfunding on one hand, but Crowdfunder is also looking into other investment opportunities, like, for example, community shares, because we believe that once somebody is crowdfunding, perhaps the next step for them might be something like community shares, that the next step beyond that might be equity crowdfunding, and so on. And actually, I think what's really important, if you've got a great idea but you're not quite sure how to kind of make the next step happen, to realise there's lots of different opportunities out there. And it's, you know, the idea of just going to a bank is actually quite old-fashioned. There are so many other ways that you can fund your idea and get support for it. And I think what we'd like to be able to do is do some really interesting research, some really leading edge research into this whole sector and how the financial market is evolving to help things like social enterprise and to help grassroots enterprise and see the impact and how that can evolve over time. It's a genuinely very new way of doing things, which is why it's quite interesting, I think.
There are a couple of, actually, just to add to that, there are two broad sets of research that we need to refer to. The one set is saying, well, we need to create an ecosystem with policies that is actually conducive of social enterprises so that you can support that more actively over time. And that's part of the research that the Futures Entrepreneurship Centre is moving into, is saying, well, we can do everything, but the environment in which a social entrepreneur, the individual business operates, need to be in a really positive environment. So the one research is on the policy areas and the governance of social enterprises. The other side is actually helping people to come up with better ideas. And that is also research, and that's applied research area. And this is coming in different shapes and forms. For example, what we're doing with our beta program in Futures is saying, let's provide them with initial support so that they can go out and explore and see whether this can work or not. If it's failing, it is still a success, because then you know. And it's in a controlled environment. And from that we try to get what Gareth is saying as well, is increase the funnel of people that see social enterprises as a viable option, and help them to actually implement those ideas. So there are two sets that we're starting to create, and that for us is the total ecosystem to make that happen over time. We need that positive environment. We need to show that to people what is going on. The examples that Dawn referred to in her presentation, and what the intention is of Seedbed as well. So we need more cases so that people can see what it is. And it needs to be, and we need to say that as well, it needs to be more current and futuristic. It doesn't help that we're just falling back on old ideas because we don't know anything else. So that is where the other part of research is coming in its different shapes and forms as well.
Thank you. Just two comments on that. One is, I think, there's something really simple about it. Still, not enough people know what a social enterprise is, or a social entrepreneur is, and I think it's something that we've got to do to make sure that anyone starting a business, whether it's a student, a school, or an older person, or whatever, has enough information to make a decision about could they make that business a social enterprise or not. That's a really important point to get to. We're a long way from that, and I think that's the kind of power of some of this work that Futures and Social Enterprise City is doing around that. And the second point, it's interesting, something that Dawn mentioned, is about social impact. And we've run a series of events over the last year about it's called Future Business, looking at very, very successful social entrepreneurs on the national scale, talking about what's made their business a success. And actually, the consistent message I came back from that was, that there's a laser-guided focus on your social impact. Be really clear what your social mission is. And yes, run a good business and make a profit to achieve that, but actually be really, really clear what is it you're trying to change. And some of the work I've done as an entrepreneur, run my business, is trying to help organisations map their social impact and track it. And I still find too many businesses just say all these good things that they're doing, but actually they've got no proof and no evidence. And how do they do that? And how can they be better at kind of creating that story that Victoria was talking about? It's still a massive gap, I think, in the sector and being able to prove their social impact. And it can be in really simple ways. People get hung up on very complicated methodologies like social return on investment and social value auditing, which are great for certain businesses, but actually there are some really simple things we can do to tell stories about what we've done and the impact we've had. I think we need to do more of that, because again, that captures public awareness, captures the imagination of people.
Yeah, just to add to Gareth's point about the importance of the social purpose and impact, it's also important to have a really good business. And this is, I think, where Seedbed is sitting, we're trying to help people to have really good businesses, because there is a lot of finance out there, and as Dawn is saying, there's a lot of ways of getting to that finance. But if the business model isn't good, and if the position doesn't work, it's not going to help. So it comes back to fundamentals and really focusing on customers and markets and what is the story I'm telling, and who is out there who wants that story and listens to it.
Thank you.
I've got a question in the corner here.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of questions from the webinar. The first one's for Dawn Bebe from Pam Cole. Her question was, does the reward need to be to the same value as the donation when you're doing crowdfunding?
Okay, so is the reward the same as what if I've invested £5, must I get £5 out of this?
Well, the simple answer is yes but no, but yes but no. So ideally, you'll have a much better success rate for your funding if the value of the reward is perceived as valuable as the money that somebody pledges, or even a bit more. So typically something experiential, so get to meet Louis Tomlinson from One Direction, very valuable. But I don't think it necessarily matters. If all you can give back is a tweet or a thank you or a postcard or something else, if you've got a really supportive community that really back your idea, they will still pledge money. And I think that's about really the story you tell about your idea, the way you market it, the way you engage with people, the way you make them feel part of your story and your journey. And even if you can't afford that greater reward, people will still come in and back your idea. But ideally, in an ideal world, yes, the value would be the same as how much you're asking.
So it's about the relationship marketing as well. You need to know the people helping you as well as coming back to the cooperation and collaboration.
Very much so. And I think someone said at the beginning, often with a social enterprise, you don't reach out and ask for help enough. You feel like you're on your own and you've got this mission and you're trying to change the world and it's amazing and everything. But actually, you take it all on and you try to do it yourself. And I think what we see in Crowdfunder is generally 30% of the people who first pledge, you know them individually on a one-to-one basis. So you tend to know, it's like layers of an onion ring, the first 30%, you know who those people are. It's your mum, it's your dad, it's your second cousin, it's that kid from school, whatever. They all come in. And then once that 30% have pledged, it just starts to ripple, like ripples in a pool. People start to tell their friends, they start to tweet on social media, and the word goes out, and suddenly your idea has started to spread, and people come in and back it. So I think it's a really powerful way of doing it, and it's a great way of, as I said, just connecting your community behind that idea.
Second question?
Second question. So the second question is from Alex Houston, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing, and it's a multifaceted question for Seedbed. So what she's asked is how a company applies to Seedbed and when the next deadline to apply is, how much is established does a company need to, how established does a company need to be to qualify, and what companies have you supported so far? You don't need to repeat that one because I'm reading it from the screen and they've got my microphone.
Good, because I won't remember everything.
If you need me to read any of that again, I can.
Just the last part of the question, what was it?
The last part of the question was, which companies have you supported so far?
Okay, so let me start with the last one first. we are only just at the beginning, so our first cohort will start tomorrow. I can tell you that the answer to that question in 9 months, when the first program is finished. As I said, we've got a wide range of organisations on the first cohort, geographically from Cornwall all the way to Bristol, and covering anything from retail and manufacturing through to health innovation and services. So it's all there. How to apply is very simple. It's just going to our website, which is www.seedbedenterprise.co.uk. All the information is on there. The next program will start in January 2016, and application for that will probably open in September. Did I answer everything?
Just double checking.
Oh, there was a question about what does early stage mean? Good question. And we didn't define that in terms of number of years, because for us it's more a development stage in an organisation. And it is that kind of cusp I was talking about in my presentation, where you've been probably through the first wave of support, which could have been the immediate circle of family and friends, or a grant application, some seed funding. You're working with your idea, and you're ready for the next step, which either means developing your product so that it can be scaled, looking at your market so that you can reach more customers, or looking for kind of a solid proposal to bring substantial investment into the business. That's what we call early stage. Which could be after 6 months, or it could be after 5 years. We're not kind of defining that.
Third question, Emily?
That third question was all of them. So I think that's all the questions online for the second.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question related to what you said earlier on the environment and the governance. So for anyone who's willing to stick their neck out, who gets the social enterprise vote in this year's election? And also how will that shape the landscape afterwards?
I think it's a really interesting question, and it gets to the heart of the work we've been doing in Plymouth recently. There's a mixed picture really on all the parties. So there's the Conservatives have been quite sort of strong on public sector, public service reform, and using social enterprise for that. Labour's got a strong tradition of cooperative development and has been very supportive locally around social enterprise. The Green Party came out with something in the manifesto today about supporting ethical businesses. So across the board, really, they're all talking about it. Although I've not heard UKIP mention it, who knows? And certainly in Plymouth, so another one of our roles around the social enterprise network is we've been talking to all the political parties about why social enterprise is important. And our key message has been, it's about the economy, stupid. You need people to create jobs, you need people to create businesses. Plymouth really, really lacks a lot of start-up entrepreneurial sort of activity. It's ranked really, really poorly for entrepreneurial start-ups. So if we want to create a better economy in Plymouth, we need people to create businesses. We want those businesses to be social enterprises. And all the parties get that. It's about the economy. So it's strong. And then the added benefit of social enterprise is not only do you create the jobs and wealth, but you're creating social impact as well. And that's the dream ticket. If we can get that right, taking Dirk's point, we've got to be good businesses with good propositions. I think it goes back to that thing. If you get the messages right, you engage publicly, you engage politically, most of the political parties are getting it. I think the big problem for me in the political debate at the moment is there's a really polarised debate between public and private. And it misses this middle ground where social enterprise can actually for really, really good innovation, particularly around health and other social services. And what's great about social enterprises is they aren't putting profit ahead of patient care or services. They actually are driven by that social purpose. And that debate is hugely lacking in the political arena at the moment.
Yep. So in terms of the political side, let's focus on the individual side. So I know it's election season, but yes.
Well, I just wanted to put the question back to you because the Social Enterprise Alliance, which is a kind of grouping of many kind of social enterprise bodies in the country, have put out a social enterprise manifesto. And there is a kind of website where you can go on and you can actually challenge all the candidates in your local constituency to see whether they are supporting the manifesto, which has some key points which we want to see in terms of social enterprise support. So I did that, and I know that, as Gareth saying, everybody says yes.
In a month's time, we would know.
That's a really, really important point, actually, because it's really simple. You can go online, put your postcode in, send a direct message to all your MP and all your candidates and get them to sign that social economy manifesto. And that's really, really profound, because there's a list of all the people who signed up, but it's cross-party. Actually, in Plymouth, people haven't signed up yet, so we've got to do more work here.
Yeah, do more work. Get on there.
Emma?
Yes, a question for Dawn. Basically, I helped facilitate a workshop with our crowdfunder resident Heather Forster earlier today, and he mentioned the match funding with Crowdfunder Plymouth. And basically, what are the exact criteria for that match funding?
So it's about match funding and the criteria for match funding.
Yeah.
In Plymouth.
Yes.
There's a relatively long list of criteria, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, I'm afraid, but they're on the Crowdfund Plymouth website, so you're welcome to go and have a look. But I think, if I just explain really simply, the money has come from certain developments around the city, so where there's been a development, that's generated some SIL money.
Yeah.
And so in really simple terms, the council are very warm to ideas that come from the areas that the money was generated in. They're going to take a generous view of that, so if somebody had an absolutely brilliant idea but it didn't come from a particular area that had generated SIL money, they will obviously look at it and consider it as a great idea. They won't rule people out. But in broad brushstrokes, what they'd like to do is back great community projects in the areas that it's come from. And I think what's really interesting, actually, I must say this, is that 30% of that money, 50% of that money, so £30,000 approximately, is actually targeted towards student projects, Plymouth University projects. And the reason for that is some of the money has come from student development, student flats and student accommodation. So there's £30,000 up for grabs for student projects. So I think, we're trying to get the university mobilised around that message. It can be society projects, social enterprise projects, whatever, but that money is genuinely up for grabs and is still available.
There's a challenge.
Any other questions?
Yep. It's interesting, I just been a tweet from someone in Canada, actually, saying that we need to do more work. Social enterprise needs to introduce students to the possibilities of social entrepreneurs. And that's something we are doing a little bit, we can do more of. But one of our my key roles, we get out there and try and mentor students, talk to students, lecture about social entrepreneurship with students here.
What's also important, and you're talking about where we support that in a region as well. I think we've got so many students, international students as well, that we've got an obligation actually to spread that beyond our region as well, because there are so many regions that actually need that as well. Any other last questions from you? Because I've got a nice lineup of 3 questions that I want to ask you. Over to you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, actually, I work for a social enterprise myself, but sort of wanting one day to sort of do something of my own. If I'm on ground zero and I have an idea, just an idea, no money, no support yet, it's just in my head, what's the first thing you recommend that I do in collaboration?
Good question.
Can I start with that one?
You can start, and then we're going to the rest as well.
I think the first thing you need to do is talk to people about your idea. Get some feedback. Because as long as the idea is in your head, you have got no measure of how successful it could be. But as soon as you start talking to people, you get some sense of whether people actually kind of catch on to this idea. So I would say that's the first thing to do. Get it out of your head, into your mouth, and start talking about it.
I absolutely agree. The best ideas often come down the pub or somewhere, or in the bar, don't they? I know what I should do. But actually, if it's just in your head, it's not going to change the world, is it? So, actually, a really top tip for crowdfunding is that before you start, the crowdfunding campaign is actually almost the last thing you do, because the first thing you do is you go out to your network and you talk to them about your idea and you test it out. Ideally, you go to your really clever cousin who's good at business or social enterprise and you ask their opinion and get their feedback. And actually, by the time you've sort of, if you like, warmed up your crowd, you then launch a crowdfunding campaign and you'll find that people will be really excited and they'll come in and back your idea. So I absolutely agree that the best thing to do is get it out of your head and into your friends' heads and start discussing what you could do. You often find they'll say, that's a great idea, can I help you? And that obviously is brilliant for your new business.
yeah, I mean, there's thousands of people with ideas, isn't there? But not enough who actually act on those ideas and get them done. You've got to act, you know, talk to people, act on it. I mean, I think, you know, to do it, you know, get out there, try it, because there's a really, you know, one of the biggest reasons businesses fail is that people don't even act on the business idea. They don't go into business. So that, you know, if you've got an idea and you think you can create some value and do some really good things, then, you know, in 20 years' time, if you haven't done it, you look back on it and regret it. So I'd say, yeah, talk to people and do it.
Yeah, I think there's about one very rough ratio saying 3% of new ideas being implemented. So if you've only got one idea, it's a dangerous ground to be. So actually it is what we normally talk about, and what they're referring to is park the idea or let it roll. And there's little gates that we need to go through: the finances gate, the marketing gate, the me gate. Is it really me? Do I really want to do this?
Right.
Or is it just a brilliant idea?
No, that's something I think just do it. I don't mean in a flippant way. I mean, do it, think it through. But yeah, I think. I've started run a business for 4 years, and I never ran a business before, and it's been a really, really kind of incredible journey for me personally. And I think, you know, that's, you can create the idea of creating the destiny, create the world you want to see. I think is quite powerful. And I think that's, you know, but go into it with your eyes wide open. You know, do all the proper risk assessments and financial assessments and cash flow forecast, have a cash flow forecast.
I just wanted to add a little anecdote. You know, sort of one of the founders of School for Social Entrepreneurs was really good at fundraising and getting ideas off the ground, and his method seemed counterintuitive. He would always go to people, talk about his idea, and say, "Tell me why this wouldn't work. Why would this not work?" And that way, first of all, he learned a lot about his ideas, and he got some genuine supporters. Because once he could go back and say, "Yeah, I kind of looked at your concern, and this is what I've done about it." So by the time these people were kind of, I suppose, happy that he addressed their concerns, they became real supporters, and his idea became much sharper. So there's something about not being afraid of criticism, not being afraid of any kind of reaction. This will never work. Why would this not work? Find out.
That's the test of the crowd, isn't it, as well? That's where crowd,
yeah.
That's the old-fashioned.
All right, maybe just a last set of questions here. If you've got one thing that you want to tell our audience as the most important thing, what would it be? And we start from Gareth.
Thank you.
I feel trying to start today. Right. So to me, I think it's a really profound thing that social enterprise is doing in the world right now, and I think it's about business can be a really, really important force for good in the world. In the pursuit of profit alone, I think it can be kind of really damaging. And I think social enterprise is the future. And if we can align good business sense, profit making, with good causes, I think we can make the world a better place.
Thanks, Gareth. Dawn?
Well, I'm going to mention something I'm not sure I'm allowed to mention here, but I went to the Said Business School and the School Social Enterprise conference, and I've never been there before. And they explained to me, or the crowd, that actually they were all about ideas that might just change the world. And that is actually a mantra that we have in our company. And they put forward the idea that, in fact, every business is really a social enterprise, because every business wants to change the world in some way or other for a positive effect. And yes, I think a business that's only about pursuit of profit, that's quite a limited sort of spectrum, though it is economically positive potential. But actually they put forward the idea is that if you're going to start a business, of course you're starting it because you want to do something that is a positive force for good. And I thought that was quite a profound thought, that every business is potentially a social enterprise. And if you think that way round, it's quite inspiring. It's not just about money, it's about the good you can do with your product, or the impact your company will have on the society around you. So I think that's something I think is worth taking away. But my final thought is, if you've got a little kernel of an idea and you just want to test it out, talk to your friends, but try crowdfunding. It's a really good quick way of finding out whether your idea is good.
And,
yes, so I've got three, sorry. So the first one is, I'd say just do it. I think that's the key that I would say. Just if you have an idea, just do it. Go out and do it. We're not trying enough. As Gareth was saying, all of us will look back and think, oh, I wish I just had done that. So just do it. The second thing is, if that doing really isn't for you, find something somebody else does and support them. A lot of us are just very kind of passive supporters. So if we become more active and supporting somebody else's great idea, that changes the world too. And the third one is, if both of those are difficult, start talking about these ideas and people that support them so that we can spread the word. So I think that way we change the world.
It's like one person said, it's good business to do good, so we better do good. So thank you for each of your contributions, Gareth, Dawn and Dirk. And I think that brings us to the end of this experiment today. And maybe if I just can have a couple of acknowledgements on Judith's behalf. And the first one is thank you to Judith. Judith is the leadership role in social enterprise at Future, so a lot of activities being really spun out at this stage and worldwide as well. And nothing is acknowledgement of what we're doing in Plymouth as a social enterprise environment. Eleanor, Emily and Amber and IT support people, that it's always good to see IT working from my perspective, because sometimes I feel I was born before IT. But anyway, and lastly, but not least, your contribution here. Thanks for pitching up here as well, and to the people that logged into this webinar as well. I think we need more conversations to simplify a rather complex environment into simplistic solutions at the end of the day. And I think partly that's a Seedbed crowdfunding university role, to simplify all these complex knowledge and procedures in the environment and making sure that we're building something really positive over time. So thank you from my side, and we've got time for informal networking as well.